Welcome to the Middle Ground. I'm High Divided. He is Stormin Norman. We are back for another edition of the Ohio Middle Ground, where there is never a shortage of news, drama, and hot topics to break down in the great state of Ohio. Bag the Jungle is coming to Paycor Stadium this Sunday. Zac Taylor needs fired. The front office needs more scouts. And this offense has to find something, anything that looks like an identity in the run game. Over in Cleveland, Grandpa Joe Flacco is out as a Browns quarterback, and Dillon Gabriel gets a call to be QB1, making his first ever start on foreign soil. The Cincinnati Reds, they started the week on cloud 9 and ended it face first in the gutter against a loaded Dodgers team. Some say there's plenty to be positive about heading into next year, and others say there is a lot of holes to fix. And how about the Ohio State Buckeyes? The Buckeyes walk into Washington and ended the Huskies' 22 home game win streak. So to all the haters out there, I've got just one question. Are we still worried about Matt Patricia? And of course, we cannot forget about you, Norm, limping along at a brutal 11-21 on your picks. The show is loaded, so let's get it going. Norm, are you excited tonight?
I'm real excited. We're in the middle of football season.
I can tell it in your voice.
No, but I mean, I was looking at last week's games, just doing a recap before this week, and then looking at next week's. It's loaded. Like last week, I was looking into it. There's 4 top 25 games that went into overtime, and then that's not even including all the one-score games there was. So just an absolutely stacked slate we had last week. I know you got to enjoy it quite a bit. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that it was a really good watching experience for the viewer on Saturday afternoon to Saturday night.
Yeah. I hear you. I was able to catch a little bit of the Penn State-Oregon game, saw some Bama-Georgia game. I had my phone out a little bit at the wedding for the Ohio State-Washington game. But yeah, I definitely didn't get the experience that a lot of you others out there got, that's for sure. Norm.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that Oregon Penn State game is probably the best place to start. I guess it was a weird game because it felt like Oregon was just gonna make Penn State roll over and just have the normal Penn State, haha, you got destroyed and manhandled that you're supposed to be the caliber of. Well, then Penn State fought back a little bit. It goes to overtime. There was the talk of them not going for 2 and all that. I didn't hate not going for 2. I mean, at the end of the day, you're at home.
Right.
Crowd's wild. Like, I don't hate extending the game and just, continually trust. The problem was Oregon delivered in the big moments. Penn State did not. But for Penn State losing, I came away a little more intrigued by them than I thought I would be from a loss. Like I feel like going into the game, I'm like, if they lose to Oregon, they're just back to being, their Penn State. Don't
James Franklin's Penn State's.
Right. Which I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I think the Oregon game just kind of, I think the fight back was something that was just like, okay, they didn't just roll over. A lot of times Penn State just plays the close game and they're within a score and they never really had a chance. In fact, they came back in this one and then, couldn't close after it. Like, it almost feels like a baby step in a way for them. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like this is potentially the other 2 teams. Like, if you're to put a top 3 in college football, I mean, I feel like Oregon and Penn State are in that discussion. So I think it was interesting seeing them go head to head. From an Ohio State perspective, neither of them really imposed their will to a level where I'd be worried
about them.
From an Ohio State perspective. Both teams obviously beatable. I mean, I think that's kind of we talked about that in a couple weeks ago about just how it's a little more level this year. There's not a lot of super teams from what we've seen in the past.
I think there's one out there.
I would agree with you, but I just mean as a whole. Normally you got two or three teams that you're like, all right, one of those three's win the national championship. This year, I don't think you have that. I think there's
One.
I think the Big Ten has, their premier teams. The SEC has theirs, which we'll get more into who we think those are next. Um, but yeah, no, nothing. I mean, and also it's early in the year, first big game for those two teams. So I'm not reading too deep into it, but from an Ohio State perspective, I wouldn't be worried about either of them. I feel like we match up pretty well with either of them. And a lot of that has to do with our defense, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you've read. I know you can watch it a lot, but any thoughts on that game? I feel like that one was probably the biggest of the weekend. Let's see, probably that or Bama, Georgia.
So I caught a decent amount of the game, and I basically there was like a bar at this place we were at the wedding we were at, and once it went up 17-3, somebody in the chat just said fire Norm. That ain't good, Norm. You're catching some heat. Anyways.
Oh boy, here we go.
Anyways, I was watching it in the bar, and once Oregon went up 17-3, I was basically like, all right, this game's cooked. It's over with. And I don't know how much longer it was left. I was drinking pretty heavy. I remember just like looking at my phone and then seeing that it was 30-24 double OT, and I was kind of like, holy shit. Like, Penn State showed a little bit of fight, clearly. I watched a little bit of the highlights and things like that. I didn't watch it enough to really comment a whole lot in the game, other than like you see the headlines and it's like James Franklin it. Couldn't get it done in a big game, like we have been saying his entire career at Penn State. But I think like I need to watch both teams fully. But I agree, like, just from what I've seen from Ohio State, I don't think either team necessarily like worry me as well. Like, Drew Waller is a solid quarterback. I don't think he's great. Not a guy that scares me. I think Dante Moore is a dude. But I've seen Ohio State deal with two guys that are pretty athletic and can make some plays with their feet, and Arch Manning and Damon Williams Jr., and they handled both of those guys pretty fine. And that makes me feel pretty good. Like, if we were to match up with either one of those two teams, we're going to play Penn State, obviously. And I would say there's a very high chance we'll run into Oregon at some point, if not twice, throughout the course of this year. But that gives me a lot of confidence just in what I've seen in Washington, what I saw at Texas, and just Matt Patricia being able to scheme something up and kind of keep these guys under taps. Like, I think Ohio State's defense is as elite as it's been. I think it's kind of like that 2019-esque. You don't have like a Chase Young on the defense. I guess you could probably say that's like a Caleb Downs, but I mean, in terms of a guy just like wrecking a game or anything like that. But I think like just across the board, they just have dudes everywhere. Arvell Reese is a dude. Caleb Downs is a dude. Jermaine Matthews is a dude. Caden McDonald's a dude. Caden Curry, who a lot of people didn't talk about, had like 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Absolute dude. Like, there is a guy at every single spot. Like, there is not a weak spot on this Ohio State defense, which gives me a lot of confidence if we were to match up with either one of these two teams down the road.
Well, and two, I think that's why it's easy to say we match up well with either of them because, I mean, especially from a defensive side, I think we match up well with anybody. Because, I mean, you look at all 3 levels of the defense, there's guys producing at a high level at every single level. So yeah, I mean, I think Dante has shown a lot more with his arm than the other 2 guys has, but also Dante hasn't really played anybody besides Penn State this past week where, I mean, he wasn't perfect, but he looked good. But yeah, no, I think he's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, no one's taking over in the Heisman race right now. I don't even know what the odds are. I know Moore's high. But I think a different guy that we'll start talking about more is Ty Simpson.
Yes.
Them going on the road, beating Georgia, Alabama owning Georgia, not something I thought was going to continue under DeBoer. But thus far, Alabama owning Georgia lives on. And Ty Simpson was great. Um, like you look at Alabama's team from Florida State to where it is now, just to just looks like the other side of a coin. I mean, and the fact that they went into Georgia, this isn't in Tuscaloosa. Like they had another road test and they delivered. Um, so I think for me, this puts Bama, if not the top SEC team, they're in that top three. Um, and I think going forward, I mean, I think they have just as good as ability to win out as anybody else. Not that they have to. Like they could probably take a loss and still be fine. Um, but you compare them, they pretty much have a lot of their big games at home. Like they play Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn yet. And only 2 of those are on the road out of those 6 games, which would be Missouri and Auburn last game of the year. But if you look at having Vandy at home, you have Tennessee at home, you have LSU at home, you have Oklahoma at home. I think their schedule, obviously, you're playing a lot of really good teams, but their schedule kind of lines up for them to take care of business, have maybe one more loss where they're still getting in the SEC championship game, and then obviously the playoff from there. But I mean, they're gonna. I think Vandy will be interesting. I mean, obviously last year Vandy beating them, I don't foresee that happening again. But I think if Alabama just absolutely torches Vandy, I think it might be time to start thinking about Alabama entering that upper echelon of teams. I feel like a lot of people don't really want to start the talks with teams with one loss like Alabama because it's like, oh, well, they lost to Florida State. It's like, well, in the climate now, losing the game doesn't really matter for the playoff. If you're getting in, if your team's playing really well, it doesn't really matter if you lost. Ohio State proved that last year. So looking at Bama, I think they're primed as well as anybody in the SEC to really take advantage of, as favorable as the schedule as you could probably get in the SEC when you're comparing, their road games compared to some of these other teams.
If you had a gun to your head, would you say, like, if you had to pick a team from the SEC to not only like get in the playoff but make some noise in the playoff, like I would think you at like today you would have to go Bama, right? Maybe Texas A&M, but like we need to see a little bit more out of them, I think.
Right, and the thing is Bama, like I know they have a loss, but and A&M has that win over Notre Dame in a similar circumstances, but I think history has to matter a little bit. I know it's different coaches and whatnot, but A&M just has not been able to get over the hump for the longest time of being in that upper echelon. Mm-hmm. So it's just hard for me to say that I'm going to be confident in Texas A&M making a playoff run.
Yep.
Like I'm kind of on the opposite of Texas A&M. I'd probably pick 3 or 4 SEC teams before I'd pick A&M.
Who would those 4 be? Bama,
Georgia,
Texas, and then who is the 4th? The 4th is tough.
I think this is where it's splitting hairs a little bit. I think
like it's not LSU.
It goes Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee, A&M. I think are all in the same kind of category.
I would probably take Tennessee out of the bunch you just mentioned there, right?
Yeah, I know LSU just lost to Ole Miss, but yeah, I would probably lean Tennessee or LSU. Ole Miss kind of dominated that game, but didn't really show they wanted to win it. I mean, they won this game by 1 score. I mean, if you look into the numbers, like they just dominated this game. So it almost makes me think like less of Ole Miss, like just take care of business and dominate. Like Ole Miss had 480 total yards against LSU. They scored 24 points.
Yeah.
So It just shows that there's still a lot of Ole Miss stuff going on there. They got a big win at home, but you have 480 yards and 24 points. That's not a recipe to continue winning. Um, so yeah. I mean, I'm not fully believing in Ole Miss yet. Obviously, big win, like I said. Like last week was just crazy because there was just a good game everywhere. That Tennessee Mississippi State game kind of makes me think Mississippi State's like the scrappy Mississippi State team they were, 3 years ago, where they can catch one of these top teams and beat them on the right night. And Auburn, like I remember talking about last week, Auburn's defense is for real. So if they can get any offense, well, they kind of proved it again and proved it in a loss. They lose 16-10. A&M's offense was lighting everybody up, and they go in and hold them under 20 at Kyle Field. So I think Auburn's defense is legit too. So, like, I think the SEC is going to be really interesting on who comes out of it, how many losses they come out of it with, because I feel like as much as we're kind of separating these teams, I don't think there's a lot. Like, even in the tier 1 teams we were talking about, I don't think there's a huge gap between Bama, Georgia, Texas to the next guys that we were just talking about there with Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, Vandy, Missouri. Like, I feel like a lot of them, like, and the rankings kind of show it too, not to put it all into rankings, but a lot of those SEC schools are ranked in a pretty close place, and that feels pretty right where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like we've talked about, as you mentioned, this year is as like balanced across the board in terms of college football's maybe been in quite a while. And I would say that rings true even more for the SEC than any other conference. Like, I don't think it is impossible to see a potential 3-loss team in the SEC make it, just because I feel like there's going to be a lot of like beating each other up just across college football this year. And just with the way that they now allow teams, or how they switched it to get teams in the playoff, where it's not just like top 4 teams that win the conference get the first 4 seeds, where we're just taking the best 12 at this point. So that is only going to help, I think, SEC schools, because they're obviously always going to be ranked right there. Like you said, they're kind of a hodgepodge of them right there between like the 5 to 15 range right now, where I think you could definitely see like a 3-loss team, whether that be Tennessee, whether that be Ole Miss, like a team like that could definitely like find their way in the playoff. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting for sure as a game, or as a year goes on. I know I had said a few weeks ago, and I kind of caught some heat for it on Twitter, but I said I think Ty Simpson levels up Bama a lot more than what they were able to do under Jalen Milroe. Like, Milroe didn't really fit DeBoer's system. DeBoer kind of came from like that Michael Penix type offense out in Washington, where you almost need like an accurate quarterback that can spread it around and get the ball to playmakers. And that's exactly what Ty Simpson is. I've been pretty impressed with him to this point. And when you talk about like Heisman winners and like guys that can potentially be the Heisman right now at this point in the season, like I think Dante Moore is definitely up there. Ty Simpson's kind of getting his way into the conversation. I think he's going to continue to put up big numbers. And whenever you look from like an NFL draft standpoint, like those two are probably, I don't know, would you say like top 3 quarterbacks as of today that would be taken off the board in the NFL draft in April?
Dante Moore, definitely.
I think he might be like the number 1 pick maybe as of today.
As of today, I don't really see how you couldn't say that, He's been, I won't say clearly the best, but has appeared to be the best. Mendoza from Indiana.
Yeah, those 3
in there.
Those 3 for sure, I would say. Simpson, Mendoza, and Moore.
Yeah, I still throw Sellers in there because he's working with the least amount. And I feel like we talked a lot about the quarterbacks we kind of expected to be good kind of falling on their face. I feel like he hasn't been the problem. Like, he's been banged up. Their team isn't overly great. I think there was a lot of speculation based on, them bringing a couple of their stars back that, they were the top, like 12 finishing team. And, they bring back some of their studs, but they clearly lost enough that, like, they're pretty impacted. But, like, looking at Lenore Sellers, for example, like the Missouri game, he had 302 passing yards. Like, he's not like blowing up in numbers or anything, but I feel like he's been solid. So I was just throwing him in the ring with those guys, but I do think those are the top 4 right now. And I mean, if we're talking about who has the ability to raise their stock the most, I think that person's Simpson.
You're right. Well, you also have to consider too, like the NFL just falls in love with guys who have talent, big arm, athletic, that kind of player, and Sellers fits that mold probably as much as any of the other 3, and Mendoza, Moore, and Simpson. So I could definitely see if he continues to kind of improve as the year goes on, shows a little bit of promise, he's going to look good in underwear when he goes out and has his pro days and in the combine and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's taken in the top 10, top 15. I mean, you could, like, NFL teams get very horny for quarterbacks. They get very desperate. So between those 4, if the draft happened today, I wouldn't be surprised at all if those 4 go in the top 15.
No doubt.
Then on to NFL. Another big weekend in the NFL. A lot of headlines across the board. Jackson Dart gets the Giants their first win against the Chargers, who we've been pretty high on to this point. Jackson Dart goes in there, gets a couple touchdowns for the Giants. Not sure how long or how much success he's going to have, but a good first start, obviously, taking down the Chargers, who we have said is definitely a Super Bowl contender as the year goes on. Tyreek Hill ends his season with a torn ACL, dislocated his knee. Looked absolutely disgusting if you saw it on social media, which I am heading down to Miami for the Bengals-Dolphins game, and that game is shaping up to be an absolute joke. No Joe Burrow, no Tyreek Hill. I would be surprised if Tua is still healthy by that point in the year, but not looking forward to that game anymore. Mahomes looks like the Chiefs might be back, rattling off 2 in a row, 4 touchdowns against the Ravens. The Ravens continue to be riddled with injuries. The defense continues to be a problem in Baltimore, as it has been for the past few years. And then the Cowboys and the Packers. Packers, another team that we are pretty high on, and the Cowboys that have had a good week 1, fell a little bit the couple weeks after that. They go and tie in a 40-40 Sunday night football game. So NFL, just another week, another ton of headlines, as you're always going to have in the NFL. Outside of that, what stuck out to you the most?
Well, I wanted to focus in more on the Ravens. With Lamar being out a little bit, their next 2 games are the Texans and Rams, both at home, but both very good teams that they'll be going Cooper Russian against.
And they are
so there's a
pretty they are what 1-3, right?
Yep, 1-3.
Oh, God, dude, that makes me sick. Makes me absolutely sick. The one year that the Bengals finally start off 2-0 and you lose Burrow, like you actually, it's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar. Like, if the Ravens were 1-3 and Lamar's healthy, I feel like we're not talking about it as much, because it just is like, well, the Ravens will take care of business against the Texans. They'll go to 2-3, or they'll take 1 out 2 with the Texans and Rams, if not both, and then go on a winning streak when they got Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, and take those 5, and then they're right back in it. But with Lamar out, it's like, well, they could lose both of these games pretty easily, be 1-5. He comes back from the bye, and those teams are still the same 5 teams, and they could rip off 5 wins fairly easily, if not 6, because the Bengals was a week after that. And
then they have the Bengals 2 weeks after that then. Like, they play the Bengals 2 out of 3 weeks, which if Lamar's in there, those are 2 wins for them too.
Yeah, so I mean, the schedule definitely lightens up. Their schedule was pretty crazy to start the year, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, their losses are to the Bills, Lions, and Chiefs. So it's like that's what I mean about like if Lamar's not hurt, I don't think it's really a conversation. But I think the fact he is makes it interesting because he's almost kind of got to come back after the bye, which would be 3 weeks from now that he would be back. And like it's just going to be super interesting because I don't foresee like the Steelers have been playing solid, but I don't foresee them, running away with the division by any means. The Bengals are the Bengals right now. The Browns are the Browns. So the AFC North is going to be probably a slot fest as the season goes on. But it'll be interesting. I mean, because I'm looking at the AFC North. No team has a positive point differential, which doesn't matter at all, but it is just a funny anecdote to have where the Steelers and Ravens have the same point differential, and one's 3-1, one's 1-3.
Yeah. That's just the Steelers, though, dude. Like, every single year, they just find a way to win. Like, you're just like, you look up halfway through the year, and they're like 6-3 or something, and you're like, they're just not very good, but they just win. And it's just like going to be another one of those years where they're going to be fighting for another AFC North title because it's just kind of the culture they have, and it's just what they do.
Yeah, I think a second thing, not to have have to talk about the Cowboys topic, but the Cowboys offense is legit. Who could have thought their defense wasn't going to be good? But
why did their defense get so bad?
CeeDee Lamb didn't play a snap, and it did not matter.
Why'd the Cowboys defense suddenly get so bad?
Yeah, I mean, apparently you do need elite pass rushers on your team to
elite players, like you always say, right?
Defense.
Probably good to keep on your team.
Yep, elite players you keep on your team. You got to be doing a full rebuild to be trading elite players. That's my mentality on that. And the Cowboys definitely aren't doing that, but from the offensive side, they look good. I mean, the Packers are. We'll see if the Browns just broke them because the Packers had every chance to win that game. Really, the Cowboys' start was when they blocked the PAT, returned it for 2 points. That changed the entire game. The Packers were about to go up 14-0. Cowboys had nothing really going on offense, and then that play just kickstarts everything. So we'll see if the Packers figured out. I know I was banging the drum on them being Super Bowl contenders, and that's kind of 2 bad weeks for them back-to-back. But yeah, I mean, the NFL is still shaping up. It's still early. I mean, a lot of these teams won't be catching their stride for a couple of weeks yet. But just an interesting couple of weeks to start from where some teams that are surprising a little bit, some teams that are, disappointing a little bit as well.
Yes, sir. Every single week in the NFL, you never know what you're going to get. But we're starting to kind of see how everything's going to shake out, seeing who is contenders, finding out who's pretenders, and we're going to keep finding out as the season goes on. But on to the Cincinnati Reds. A roller coaster of a week for the boys down in Cincinnati. Sunday, they clinch first playoff berth since 2013. And we said last week we believed if you just won one of the two on Saturday or Sunday, we felt like they were going to get in. They won Saturday. Obviously, the Mets lost on Sunday. The Reds lost. But the Reds get in. But on the flip side of that, they run into a loaded Los Angeles Dodgers team. Have to go out west. Tuesday night, not a great showing out of Hunter Green. Needed to be a lot better for them to have any kind of chance. Hit them around pretty good the first few innings. And then last night, kind of a heartbreaker. You go up 2-0. Got 2 runs right away off of Yamamoto. And felt pretty good as we were going on kind of through the game. But I know there were a lot of Reds fans that were pretty frustrated with Tito just in letting Littell in that 4th inning. Leadoff single. You kind of saw the writing on the wall, left him in there probably a little bit too long, and then at that point, the Dodgers took the lead, and that was about all it wrote last night. I think that the biggest frustration that a lot of Reds fans have is you have Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott, Chase Burns, and then there was one other guy in there that I forget, Emilio Pagan. Between those four guys, 27 pitches were thrown in the wild card round. Like, I'm sorry, Terry Francona, but 3 of your 4 best pitchers, Lodolo, Abbott, Burns, like, if you're going to go down to a team or in the playoffs, but especially a team like the Dodgers, like, you need to go down with your best horses out there. I don't understand why they didn't move Abbott up a day, why they didn't throw Lodolo more, why Chase Burns never got into the game. I don't understand why you throw Littell, who is probably your 4, maybe your 5, in game 2 in a must-win situation whenever you had some of those guys out there that were fresh, were ready to go, and probably could have given you 3 to 4 innings. But there's a lot of frustration right now with Tito, just in the decisions that he's making. I'm not sure if Will Benson is like dating his daughter, but the dude has been in the doghouse all year, and it seemed like anytime he was given the chance, he would either step up, get a big hit a big home run, but just for whatever reason, against like a righty like Yamamoto, just wasn't given the opportunity to even, I think he hit later in the game, but wasn't ever given an opportunity to get a chance to start at all. There's a lot of talk out there. This is probably the worst team that's ever made the playoffs. No hitter over 270. No hitter that hit 25-plus home runs. And then the pitching stats, take it with a grain of salt. Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo were hurt for a lot of the year. But no pitcher with 15 wins, no pitcher over 200 Ks. I think both of those guys would have probably pushed both of those marks if they were healthy. But just crazy that this team had these kind of stats tied to their name, and they were able to find a way to get in the postseason. But on another note, like, you go into next year, like, you went into this season, Tito came in, it was kind of like, you got to get shit right, get stuff on the right path. Like, they kind of underperformed in 2024. 2025 had their ups and downs, like, had some good moments, had some bad moments. But I think Tito, like we talked about last week, he's the type of guy that can kind of rally a clubhouse, get guys to turn the page, flush out the bad shit that might have happened the day before and get them back the next day to come back and battle and ultimately find a win. But positivity at the beginning of the week, getting in the playoffs. We saw the celebrations on Sunday night whenever they clinched and everything. And then you go out to Los Angeles, you're facing Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez. Kike Hernandez decides to play like Mike Trout anytime it comes to the playoffs. I don't know, where's your headspace at after this? I know next week we'll probably do a little bit more of a deep dive. We just kind of wanted to do more of like an emotional reaction to the season, to the playoff series. But where's your head at, Norm?
Yeah, so obviously I feel like I'm trying not to have the losses hang over too much because I'm trying to think about where we were sitting a week ago and weeks past, where it was get in the playoffs, see what happens, try to have some fun. They did enough to make the playoffs. Obviously, with the record ending at what it did, it kind of feels like they limped in. But I mean, they went 9-4 in their last 13, and they played the entire division in that time. So just really, I mean, I was really happy with how they ended the season.
Took 2 out of 3 against the Brewers.
Series, but
like the first win in Milwaukee since 2021, first series win. Like, that's huge.
Yep. Like, so you had that. You had the Cubs series, which was huge. So I mean, they had like people stepping up, and that's why last week I was like, I feel like they get in. I mean, they were making plays that, that they weren't quitting. I mean, even in these games against the Dodgers, like when they were getting torched, like they added some runs late in the game to, I mean, won't act like they were really close, but I mean, they were still battling. I think in terms of the Tito stuff, obviously yesterday, it's easy to say now with leaving Littell, I think, through the fourth. Definitely would have made sense to make that change after allowing the run in the third and coming in fresh with someone new in the fourth. Obviously didn't happen. I think there's legitimate gripes with not pulling it sooner. I mean, because we were the team that was desperate, and it didn't really feel like, from a pitching standpoint, it's kind of like you said, like we didn't push a lot of the buttons that you'd think a team that's desperate should be pushing. Like Lodolo and Burns both pitched in this game, and they combined for 3 1/3 innings, no runs, 1 hit between the two of them. So, like, clearly that to me is like, well, Lodolo and Burns were clearly ready to roll from a bullpen standpoint where we could push that button at any time. How far they would have gotten, if we're extending them further, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think it would have made sense to start it oppositely, where Lodolo starts in more of like an opener sense, where he's starting with the intention of pitching him 3 innings, and then you go from there. If you can sneak it 4, great. 5, great. But really just plan for 3, and then break it up from there. It felt like almost because the Dodgers had Yamamoto, who we knew was going deep, that we're like, who's our pitcher that gives us the best chance to go long and succeed at doing that. Like, I could see how Littell comes up in that conversation. The problem is when you're playing the Dodgers, there's just too many bats in a row, and he's not a strikeout pitcher, and these guys are just too damn good. Like, eventually they're going to be starting to hit balls and keeping them fair, or put them in gaps, and we started to see that happen. And then I believe crumbled down. But to me, I think it would have made sense to switch. Obviously, Dodgers have a lot of really good lefties in the lineup too. Like Lodolo having the start of Littell, like it starts Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Hernandez, Muncy. 3 of those 5 guys are lefties. So, I mean, splitting hairs a little bit, but I think it would have made more sense. Like, Littell has experience too of being a bullpen guy. So I think it would have made more sense too, with, him being able to come off the bench to, have a high leverage bullpen spot. Like, I don't know. I just think he's handling it like, and Lodolo and Burns did great, don't get me wrong, but I just think he would handle pitching today and maybe tomorrow better than, Lodolo or maybe a Burns would, because he's had experience doing that, like, quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, obviously disappointed in how the games of Dodgers really wanted to push it to 3 just to kind of say, hey, we got a game off Dodgers, we're going to the elimination. Did not happen, but I mean, as we look into next year, we were talking about injuries. Like, Lodolo and Green were hurt a large part of the year. Burns wasn't fully unlocked. Louder just doesn't even get talked about now because he missed the whole season.
Yeah,
but he's another guy who's a stud. Like, the pitching rotation for allowing 10 and 8 runs to the Dodgers, like, I still feel very good about going forward.
oh yeah, for sure.
And the talk will obviously be, let's add a bat somehow, some way this offseason. I think the good part about the Reds is they can be creative with how they go about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a position really matters. And that's the good part of having the DH now, is you can be more flexible with that. Who that is, it's too early to really know. I'm not going to act like I'm aware of who the free agents are, or who's even going to be available in the trade market. But yeah, I mean, still happy. Obviously, coming right off the losses, it's tough right now. But as you said, like, this Reds team didn't really have anyone, like, the stats of the first playoff team in MLB history without hitter 270, no 25 homers, no 15 wins, no 200 Ks. I think it says a lot about what this Reds team was. Like it was the parts add up to, something good. I think next year we'll look at, all right, well, can some of these parts start taking off and starting to handle some of the load themselves, whether that's Ellie, Friedel, Marte, Stewart. Like there's some pieces that I think there's still, a lot of positivity that I think we can see in progression from those guys that, we still like Sal Stewart, 21, Ellie, 23. Like these guys are still super young. So I think getting into the playoffs was huge, just getting that taste. Because I think there's something about when you make the playoffs, it's just easier to make it the next year. And we'll see how, the Brewers or Cubs look next year. But I think the Reds will be competing for the division next year. I don't know if that's a crazy take. But I'm very positive going forward. I do think it's time to make another big move, and we'll see if that happens, and we'll see what that is if it does.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what they have in terms of just assets that they could trade away to bring in an area of need, like offense has been the issue for this team since day one, since opening day. Like it's always been any game that you were going into with the Reds is like, well, is the offense going to do enough? Like we know that we're probably going to get good pitching, but is the offense going to do enough? It just stalled way too much as the season went on. And I mean, you got guys in your rotation. Like you have a Lodolo, you have an Abbott. I mean, I would like Hunter Green. Like there are guys in the system that you could potentially deal away to bring in that is going to be very enticing to other teams where they have a couple years of control under these guys and they may be willing to give you a good bat for next year. I don't know what that looks like. I haven't really dug into it a whole lot yet. But when you talk about the young talent, like the pitching staff of anybody has as much talent as anybody. Like you have Chase Burns. You talked about Rhett Lauder. If you just trade one of those other three for a couple of bats, whatever it may be, to kind of add some muscle to that lineup, I think that the Reds are in a good spot to like go out and either sign somebody or deal somebody away for a good return to really ultimately produce on the offensive side. I know everybody's going to be like, well, I don't want to trade away Abbott. I don't want to trade away Lodolo. I throw Green out there. I don't think that they'll deal him, but he's got a pretty team-friendly deal just because the Reds signed him a few years ago. So for the production he's getting at this point in his career, like a team might be willing to give you a solid amount in return for a guy like Hunter Green. I don't think they're going to do that. I'm not saying I want them to do that, but you have basically three assets there with younger guys that are already there in the rotation, knocking on the door to come up to the big leagues, that you could trade one of those guys away and still feel pretty good about your pitching staff while improving the weakest part of your team, and that is the offense. But we'll get into it at a later day, but it's positive. Like you get into the playoffs, get some experience for these guys. Like it's good experience to go out to LA and you face the stars of Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and on down the order for the Dodgers. Like it's good experience to get these young guys that have their first taste of postseason baseball, kind of like what it feels like, what it kind of looks like. And like you have guys like Lux, like hey, 17 postseason wins, 2 World Series rings. Like you have some other guys in there that have kind of been there and done it, where if you can bring another couple guys into the roster, as we talked about all year, like talent on the offensive side, yes, it's an issue, but there's still guys that show flashes that are young, and you would hope that they can kind of develop as you get into next year and beyond. So again, I think it really ultimately falls back on strengthening the offense and get some veterans in there that can kind of help these guys through some of these struggles whenever they get into a slump or things like that. And I don't know. Matt McClain, on the other hand, like a dude 2 years ago, missed all of last year, struggled mightily at the plate this past year. Very good in the field, but struggled at the plate this year. You're a guy that I think you're going to hear a lot of noise this offseason of like, hey, if he can get things turned around, like this offense looks entirely different if he can get back to his 2023 form. But a lot of time to talk, a lot of options that the Reds have. They're honestly in a really, really good spot to go make something happen and strengthen this team, to strengthen the offensive side. But you got in. You had guys get a taste of the postseason. Now it's just time to build on it for next year.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing will be there's a lot of pitchers that we were just talking about. And like you said, the value that we'll present to other teams is likely going to be on our pitching staff. So if we're making a swing for a big bat, don't be surprised if one of these pitchers is not a Red next year.
For me, I think it just right now my gut says Nick Lodolo. Ton of talent, not always available. He's a guy that's probably intriguing to a lot of teams out there, but he's like, when he's on your team, you don't know if you can always rely on him to be there. Like your favorite saying, Norm, the best ability is availability. That might not be your favorite saying, but I know that holds really close to your heart. And Nick Lodolo has had issues staying healthy for the Reds, but he's been very good once he's been out there. So I think he's a guy that don't be surprised if he gets dealt this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys that make the most sense are probably him or Abbott. So,
yeah, for sure.
I think it really depends on what another team would want and what we'd be getting back.
All right, on to the Cincinnati Bengals. And I said this last week, and I'm going to say this again. I'm setting a timer on my phone for 5 minutes because this team does not deserve more than 5 minutes of my time. So you will hear this alarm go off. As soon as the alarm goes off, I'm done. So let me set this alarm. 5 minutes. And we're off. Bengals, another embarrassing 28-3 loss in prime time against the Broncos. This team looks dead. They look like a team that knows that their franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow, is not coming back. And they are honestly in shambles. This is the lowest that they've probably been since 2019 before Burrow was picked by the franchise. They have holes everywhere. I think the only things that you can say positive about this team is that they have Joe Burrow, who is healthy half the time at this point. That's just the facts. That is what it is. And you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson. I think they're at a point right now where it's time to strip all this down. It's time to gut it. Get rid of the coach. Bring in a new coach. Deal some of these guys away. You have some trade value there for Trey Hendrickson and even T. Higgins, T. Higgins is on a very team-friendly deal. He's making $28 million a year. He can go to a team and be a wide receiver one. And for the wide receiver one market that's out there right now, that's a pretty good money for a wide receiver one that a team can trade for him and have 3 to 4 years of control over him. So I think this is a point where you need to basically strip it down. With how bad you're going to suck the rest of this year, Trey Hendrickson, I think, has to be on the board, and I think T. Higgins has to be on the board as well as a guy that you trade. See if you can potentially package both of them. See if you can go out and get another first-rounder for maybe both of them. I don't know what that looks like. I know that the Bengals typically aren't a franchise that makes a move like that, so I'm not sitting here banking on it by any means. But I think it's something that you have to entertain at this point. Aside from that, this team has no identity in the run game. They cannot run the football. And in the NFL, you are not going to be very good if you can't run the football. That is something that they need to find a coach that will specialize in the run game, figure out the run game, and have some sort of identity, whatever that may be. Whatever that may be. You have to have some sort of identity in the run game. And from there, I think if you can go and get a top 5, top 10 pick this season, draft a guy on defense, draft an offensive lineman, a guy that can step in day one and make an impact. I think if you can get a top 10 pick, take an offensive lineman, maybe get another pick, not saying it's going to happen, but maybe draft like an Arvell Reese, a guy like that, potentially in a mid-round pick. I don't know. Give me a guy on this Ohio State defense. It's full of fucking freaks everywhere. But the point is, I think it's time to burn it down. I think it's time to fire the coach. I think it's time to start dealing some guys away. And you have a 4-year window where you have Burrow and Chase in here. And as of today, you're screwing it up. That's just the reality. There are still most Bengal fans, I think, after Monday night's game have kind of starting to see the writing on the wall, but there is still a crowd out there that's like, well, we're 2-2. But the Ravens are 1-3. Like, we can still make some noise. Like, we are not doing anything with Jake Browning at quarterback. We can't run the ball. This team looks so uninspired. The most uninspired I've seen them since 2019. They quit 2 weeks in a row. They quit on the coach. And that starts from the top. So I'm going to the game on Sunday, and I am telling all Bengals fans, they're doing this stripe the jungle type bullshit where it's like, if you're in this section, wear orange. If you're in that section, wear black. Wear orange, wear black, but bring a brown paper bag. Send a message to the front office. I am tired of just seeing the good things that this franchise has constantly just be fucked away. Like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that many other franchises would kill for, to have a guy like Burrow and Chase in their building. Top 5 quarterback, top 3, top 2, top 1 wide receiver, whatever you want to call Jamar. It's time to go. And you just see the other guys around the league that are on the Burrow's level. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes. They've had guys around them. They've had rosters built around them to be sustainable for success. Once you sign your quarterback, you have to get creative. You have to draft well. Something that the Bengals have not been able to do for the last, I don't even know, fucking 5-6 years, basically since Burrow's been in the system. But the point remains, you got to tear it down. It's time to put a message out to the front office. Like, this is the best years that we have seen in a really, really, really long time for the Bengals, and they are absolutely screwing it up. Absolutely fucking it away. And at this point, if you're going to go out there and allow Burrow to continue to take the hits that he has been taking, he's got 3 to 5 more years and he's done. Like, he can't continue to sit here and take hits like this, take injuries like this. You have to figure something out, and you got to move on. And there's my timer. Any remarks, Norm?
No, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, I think it's interesting when you're talking about trading Trey and T. I think Trey's the one that makes a lot of sense. I think T makes some sense to keep just from he is locked up with the team friendly deal, so it makes as much sense to keep him. What you're saying about his value still being good with that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the Bengals have looked like just dog shit. I mean, to put it politely, and with the Lions coming into town this week, I don't foresee it getting any better because the Lions like to step on throats. But yeah, no, it's clearly something has to change. With how Browns fans are quick to fire coaches, I know that's not the situation, but I just have my own thoughts on our own situation going on. But I think we've talked about Zac Taylor before. Like,
it's time.
I think you're probably right. The problem is it feels like a situation where the Bengals will be like, well, Burrow was hurt, the team collapsed from there, blah, blah, blah. And then he's back next year. Like, that's kind of how I foresee this playing out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as an insider, hearing your outsider opinion, I think you might be right. The best thing for the Bengals right now is to continue to get embarrassed. If you want Zac Taylor out, which I think a majority of the fan base does want Zac Taylor out, but you have to continue to get embarrassed, and that's just going to continue to put more heat on the front office and just make the fan base louder. Like, I'm all for it. Be loud. Be loud about this. Don't accept this bullshit. Because the second that Burrow and Chase's deals are done, they're not staying in Cincinnati, and you are an absolute moron if you think that they are. So something has to change, and something has to change quick, and I think it starts at the top with Zac Taylor. Bottom 5 run game, bottom 5 offensive line. Teams quit on him 2 years in a row. His record is something like 5-28 whenever Joe Burrow is not the starter, and his record is like 47-14 when Burrow is the starter. Right? That right there is enough to tell you of where the issue falls. So that's all I have to say about that. On to the Cleveland Browns. New QB1, Norm.
It was time. We talked about it last week.
Came a little bit earlier than you thought, though.
Yeah, no, I thought this was going to be happening. What's that, week
7, right? You said against the Jets?
No, I was thinking the Dolphins.
Or Dolphins, my bad.
Yep, October 19th. So, yeah, no, this is happening 2 weeks earlier than I thought. I think the Browns kind of came to the point where it's like, well, what's the point of waiting? Like, Dillon, we'll see how ready he is. I'm super interested that it's happening right away with the Vikings, with Flores, who has a pretty good track record against rookies. It being in London, like I think we'll know right away if Gabriel's got something. Because if he just puts up an absolute dog shit in London, it's like, oh well, we might be seeing Shador later this year. But I think you can really set the tone. I think even a solid outing, I think will get the people going. Because, a solid outing gives the Browns a pretty good chance to win. And if Gabriel can just game manage his ass off, not turn the ball over, get the ball out fast. This Browns defense is just so good that not turning the ball over kind of sets you up to win just doing that. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what Gabriel has. I wasn't excited on draft day when he was picked. I've come around, but yeah, no, I'm super excited to see just how the offense looks, because there's a lot of times too where the line hasn't been great this year, but with Flacco not being able to move at all, it becomes two rads. Like when a guy's just running right past the tackle, and our quarterback doesn't really have the ability to step up, he's just kind of a statue in there. It doesn't really help you. So it was time. I think Browns fans knew it was time and felt it was time. So, from that side of it, they're avoiding the Browns fan rush to attack. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be good. We'll see. I was talking about the division being wide open. Not to say the Browns are back in it, but
yeah.
Let's say they beat Minnesota this week. They go back and play at Pittsburgh, which would probably be a loss. But then you got Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Ravens, Raiders, Niners, Titans. It's by far their easiest stretch of the schedule. The Ravens is at home. And then, you got at Patriots, at Jets, at Raiders, which all those teams, well, not all those teams, but those teams are comparable or better than the Browns, but all winnable games. So I think we'll know what the Browns' ceiling is in these next 5 weeks. I said before, I'm not anticipating playoffs, but I think we'll find out if this team's going to be a 500 team, because there's just not going to be a lot of wins to go around late in the season. But yeah, no, from where the schedule started with the Browns, it's opened up a lot with, the injuries and how other teams have started to look. So yeah, I think this is the first week to really know where this Browns team ends up.
I think you brought up a good point, and kind of go back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. Like, the AFC North is very wide open right now, and with the defense that you guys have and like the stretch of the schedule that's coming up, if you can get Gabriel in there and kind of make some things happen on the offense, Joe Flacco's just way too old and way too slow to play anymore, and you could see it, like, just very slow developing plays. Like, anytime there was any kind of play action, it just felt like a half hour for him to fake the handoff, get his feet set, get turned around, and deliver a throw. By the time all that happened, it felt like he was 2 seconds late almost every single time, at least whenever, just my perspective of watching the Browns game. But with a wide open AFC North and the defense that you have, there's definitely a world where through the next 5-6 games, if you can go 3-3, 4-2, like you can probably find yourself a game or 2 games out of the AFC North and right there competing for something. So right now definitely is the time, because if you roll with Flacco for another 2 weeks, probably another 2 losses, because you're going to continue to struggle to hit double digits, especially against Brian Flores. Vikings have a good defense, and Gabriel offers you a lot more. Just extending plays with his feet, like making plays happen. He just gives you a better chance to win at the end of the day. I mean, it could blow up in his face. He could come out and really struggle on Sunday and beyond, but it's time to kind of make that switch, move on from Flacco, keep him in the room, kind of help him get these young guys, Gabriel and Shedeur, help them through some things. And yeah, I agree. I think it's time to move on and see if you can kind of make something happen in a weak AFC North.
No doubt. And I think a matchup with this defense against Carson Wentz is a great place to start to get on a winning streak.
Are you thinking the under on that game Sunday then?
Depends on the total, because sometimes Carson Wentz games turn into a lot of points just because of the turnovers giving good field position.
I'd be surprised if it's more than like. I would guess it's like 38.5.
It is 36.
What's your number? 36. Wow, that is low.
My
That's
number
very low.
was literally 38. So yeah, no, it's super low. I think I still would lean the under just with the whole London. I know there's a lot of Lunder talk. That does feel like one where it'd be a big London under. Because the team that stayed in Europe is the Vikings, who I'm not sure how many points they'll be putting up on the Browns defense. I think that has a lot to do with how the Browns offense plays, to be honest. But yeah, I foresee this game being a lot more like if you look at the Browns like game logs this year, 17-16 Bengals, 41-17 Ravens, 13-10 Packers, 34-10 Lions. This feels a lot more like a 13-10, 17-16. So say it all to say, I think I do like the under in that.
I saw Shedeur Sanders. We can't go an episode without talking about Shedeur. He made some headlines this week by saying absolutely nothing in an interview. They were asking him, I think, just questions in general about Dillon starting and things like that. And basically he sat there and just answered the question, saying nothing, but acting like he was talking. Is there anything to make of this, or is this just him kind of trolling the media? Like, I basically just say anything and everything, and you guys just flip some narrative out there.
Yeah, I mean, that was my main takeaway. What he did was weird. Not gonna argue that at all.
Very weird.
But to act like it matters is kind of crazy to me. Like, he literally didn't say anything. It's for him to say what he meant by it. Or my assumption would be is it's one of those things where it's like, no matter what I say, your guys are going to take it. So I'm just not going to say anything at all and be a little troll.
Which might have ended up in the worse.
Yeah, no,
because it blew up even more than if he did say something.
Right. But
yeah, I don't know. It was just I don't know. It just seemed a little childish, I guess you could say, just from an outsider standpoint. Because, like, you knew what he was, like, trying to do, and you knew he knew that this was going to create more attention around him by saying nothing. But on the flip side, it's also wild where it's like he legitimately didn't say anything. But I don't know. Whatever. It's midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, throughout the week when nothing else is happening, and Shedeur breathes, people talk.
Exactly.
Any last comments on the Browns? Are you waking up early Sunday morning, getting some drinking on for the game?
I will be awake and watching the game. Drinks TBD.
Still to be determined. Rolling into the Ohio State Buckeyes. Big win on the road. Defense continues to ball out. 24-6 win against the 22 home game win streak Washington Huskies. A lot of smoke that we talked about last week leading up to this game. It almost felt like Ohio State was a little bit of an underdog going into the game. And again, like Matt Patricia just goes out there and does his thing. I'm going to continue to say this week after week. I can't believe the things that were said about this man during the offseason. You and I know we're in complete agreement that a lot of the narratives that were being driven out there around him was just complete BS. Like, you're talking about a guy who won 2 Super Bowls, coached with probably the best NFL coach in Bill Belichick ever, and you're going to really act like he's going to come into Ohio State and not be able to put a good, solid defense together with the athletes and the caliber of players that Ohio State has. Just absolutely wild. I love Matt Patricia. He is everything I think that Ohio State needed. The players love him. He brings in a lot of exotic schemes that throws out there. He's completely confused 2 of the better quarterbacks, or so-called better quarterbacks in college football, and Arch Manning and Damon Williams Jr. to this point. And to the point where Washington had the number 2 ranked offense in college football coming into this game, held them to 6 points at their place, where they had won 22 straight. Caden Curry, absolute animal, 3 sacks. 5 tackles for loss. 5 tackles for loss beat Chase Young's Ohio State record in a game. He is starting to come into his own and play some really good ball the last few weeks. There's a lot of narrative now. Like, Ohio State's a big brand. People are always going to find a way to hate. And right now it's kind of like, yeah, the defense is good, but the offense isn't very good. They're kind of slow and they're kind of methodical. But it's like, I honestly think Ryan Day wants it this way right now. Like, I think this is kind of how he wants to win games right now. He wants to be slow and methodical, control the clock, give his defense a ton of time to rest on the sideline so whenever they get back out there, they're 100% fresh, and it's like, we're throwing the kitchen sink at you. Figure it out. And I think as the season goes on, Julian Sands just going to continue to develop. They're going to continue to open things up. You saw him do it against Grambling. You saw him do it against Ohio. Obviously, 2 teams that aren't very high caliber teams, not a lot of talent on those teams, but you can see what Julian can do. And he has the 2nd highest completion percentage in all of college football. We've seen it 4 games now. He's as accurate of a passer as we've seen at Ohio State since probably C.J. Stroud, and one of the most accurate passes that we've seen at Ohio State in, like, ever. He's a dude. They have all the talent on offense. The offense is just going to continue to get better as the season goes on, and here we are again. Same story, different week. Defense balls out, offense is coming along, and this team has a really high chance of repeating.
Yeah, I think this game was the perfect example of that. Like, the talk before the game going into it was Ohio State hasn't played an offense like this. You know, they played Texas, but Texas isn't, this isn't Washington's offense. Washington has, different playmakers that Ohio State's going to have to account for, and blah, blah, blah. Ohio State dominated the offense pretty much from the start. And I don't mean that in that they couldn't drive the ball at all, because they did have some nice drives. But you talk about great defenses. Great defenses don't allow you to get in the end zone. And that's something this Ohio State team has been extremely good at this year. And they proved it again in this game. Like, Washington really only had the 3 field goal attempts, and the field goal attempt,
fake field goal. Oh my God, that was probably the worst fake field goal I think I've ever seen. That was horrible.
Well, looking at the replay, it looked like they want to do a fake run, but there was nothing there, so he just threw it, because the guy he threw it to was blocking like 10 yards downfield. Yeah. It
was also wild because it was like 4th and 13 from like the 30 or some shit. And I get it if it's like 4th and 3. I don't mind like a fake there if this is Ohio State that we're talking about. But 4th and 13, you have less than probably a 5% chance of executing on that play. If you are throwing that, like, that guy has to be streaking wide open, and the guy that's throwing it still has to complete the pass. But yeah, that was just I saw that and I couldn't do anything but just laugh.
Yeah, and things like that too are just like, this just shows how desperate they are to have some type of something happen in this game when they're putting the field goal unit, not even away, but putting their field goal unit in a trick play on 4th and 13 to try to get something on this defense. Like, looking at Damon Williams was 18 for 22. They scored 6 points.
Yeah.
So there's just nothing explosive being allowed at all. And for all the talk about how explosive Washington was and how difficult that it was going to be for Ohio State, they answered everything.
Yeah, Damon Williams Jr. is clearly a really good quarterback. He made some throws. Their offense did move the ball at times, but like you said, it's been kind of like this for Ohio or Ryan Day's defense the past few years. Like, it's kind of a bend don't break defense at times. Like, we've seen however many different goal line stands the past couple years. You saw it again on Saturday. They get inside the 5, defense goes out there, forces them to kick a field goal. Like, that is just kind of what it comes down to being a great defense. If you let up points, it's just a bend don't break kind of mentality whenever they do drive. But from going forward, obviously Ohio State probably has a pretty easy one on Saturday. I think they're favored by like 22.5 points against Minnesota. What are a couple things that you're looking for or that you would like to see going into that game? And I know the easy answer is going to see, well, I'd like to see Julian Sand opening up the offense a little bit more, getting him more experience. Is there anything that, like, maybe not everybody else is thinking about that has stuck out to you that you would kind of like to see, just to kind of see this team keep building to the ultimate goal of winning a national championship?
Yeah, I think it is on the offensive side, but I think the interesting thing is just the run game. Who's getting the carries? How many? I think the dispersion was kind of what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Jackson 17 carries, Donaldson 9, Peoples 3.
I think that's about the exact numbers like we threw out there too, like 17, 9, and 3 last week.
Yeah, I think I might have said Peoples more just for having the 3-headed monster, but I mean, if he's the odd man out, that's fine.
Well, Peoples also caught a pass, if not 2, out of the backfield too. So like, it's not like he's just completely being forgotten about. It still kind of is a little bit of like a 3-man monster back there. But it's exactly like we said. Like, it's going to be kind of that 20 to 10 carries for Bo, 10 carries for CJ, and then Peoples is probably going to get a few in there somewhere along the lines. But for me, I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is the right guard spot for Ohio State has struggled a little bit to this point. Tegra Shabula, been a little shaky there. Ethan Onumwa played about 50 snaps. I think Tegra's played about 150, 200 snaps. Neither one of them has really given you anything to be too crazy excited about to this point. So if there's one thing that I'm looking for, I want to start to see one of those two guys kind of take a step. And I think that you'll start to see that run game improve a little bit. I know that, like, you can run to the left side, you can kind of run away from that spot, but to be like have a complete rushing attack, like, you almost need all 5 offensive linemen working in sync together. And I think whenever you see not like some issues in the run game, but whenever you see maybe some runs that maybe aren't hitting like they should be, it's been honestly coming there from that right guard spot. But on the flip side of that, in pass pro, like, the offensive line has been fantastic. I think they've honestly been a little bit better than what I was thinking going into the year. They were talked about very highly going into the season, and before the first Texas game, I was like, all right, let's pump the brakes here a little bit. Like, Texas has an elite D line. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and kind of give us some issues there week 1. And like, offensive line is kind of like something you build on week to week to week. Like, it's 5 guys you have to all be working in sync together. A lot of communication has to happen. But I've been pretty impressed with the unit as a whole, in particular in the pass pro. But if I had one thing that I want to look forward to, I think it is that right guard spot, and I hope that we can kind of see some improvement there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's not a lot to point out on the team. But that's definitely been one of the things that, has been sticking out.
It's like
Not
splitting
to
hairs,
pick
though.
not to pick on Lorenzo, but I feel like he's been someone that has continually been sticking out and being in places that, you're like, I'm like, Lorenzo, where are you supposed to be, buddy? Like that doesn't feel like you're making the right play. But I think again, like you said, like when you're splitting hairs in week 4, like, or week 5, this just shows how much further we have to go and how great this team could be by the end of it.
And how about Arvell Reese? I mean, we were high on him coming into the season, and he's exceeded my expectations. I think that dude is very, very well could be a top 15 pick by the end of the year. I mean, he's a natural just playing the position at linebacker. The dude has insane fucking speed. Like, when we talked about last week throwing a spy on Damon Williams Jr., it wasn't Caleb Downs. It was still Arvell Reese. And you saw no issues with him keeping up with Damon, which that is crazy for a guy his size to have that kind of speed. Like, Damon Williams Jr. is elite speed, like fast. And for him to a couple different times kind of sit back, Damon starts scrambling around, and he just goes and gets him. Like, that is elite level NFL type speed that guys at the next level are going to look for. And a lot of guys outside of Ohio State country, I think, didn't really know the name Arvell Reese. But this was the first week that I've actually seen him start to get the national attention that he deserves. And, like, he is a dude's dude. He was a guy coming into the year, like, yeah, he might be back next year. At this point, he's not coming back next year. He's a top 15 pick.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance he's back next year with how he's playing right now. Like, I feel like he's almost fully like first round type guy now. Like, I get he's a linebacker, but when a guy is just consistently making plays, like, it's just hard to ignore at a certain point.
But even, like, you've seen him, like, almost play like a edge type role at times too, where, like, he looked like Abdul Carter at times, just coming off the edge. Like, yes, he plays linebacker, that's his primary position, but he's just so versatile, can do so many different things, has that speed that I just talked about. You can move him around, and he's just a guy that you just, like, get him on the field, and he's going to make plays, and he's just instantly going to make whatever defense better. Any last remarks on the Buckeyes, Norm?
No, excited to see. I think Minnesota's another pesky team. Like this one being in the shoe, but
at night,
this one will be interesting again.
At night, we finally get another night game for Ohio State, and it's not against Ohio this time. All right, it's the segment you've all been waiting for. Norm's picks going into Week 6 of college football. 11-21 record. Any first initial comments, Norm?
Hey, over the last 2 weeks, it's been about 500. So, if we're looking for positivity, that's what I'm going to roll with. So that's where my head's at.
All right. Starting to turn the corner a little bit, guys. This might be the week that you start tailing and stop fading. Norm's got the picks for you. First one, number 14, not Ohio State. Number 14, Iowa State. 1.5-point dogs on the road at UC with an over-under of 55.5. Norm rolling with the road Cyclones, taking the 1.5. Let's hear it.
Well, this is one where I'd be taking it money line. It's a tough spot going into Cincy, but a couple factors are like noon game. I feel like Iowa State's also built like they don't do anything crazily flashy. Where like I feel like they're an efficient offense. I think that bodes well for playing on the road. I think they're significantly better than Cincinnati is. I think Iowa State, Texas Tech are kind of on their own in the Big 12 in the top two teams. So give me Iowa State, go to Cincy, get the win, stay on track in the Big 12.
Love it. Next one, this is my favorite one. I said this today. I was just was watching TV, saw this flash at the bottom of the screen, so Vandy, Bama. I said, I like the over on that game. I don't know what it is, but I like it. Number 16, Vandy, 10.5-point dog. Knocked off the Crimson Tide last year in Nashville. Diego Pavia, kind of popping his shit this offseason. Talking a lot of shit that Bama ain't the old Bama anymore. They don't have Nick Saban. He's been speaking up. As we talked about, Bama might be that team in the SEC. Not so much of a revenge game for Alabama. I think they're going to go in like, we are Bama. This is just what we do. Last year was a fluke, but this is just what we do. We beat Vandy. 10.5-point dogs on the road at Alabama. Norm rolling with the over at 55.5. Let's hear it, Norm.
Yeah, I think you kind of described it. It was one of those where it was like Vandy, Bama. Bama just has like a great defensive performance against Georgia. What are they going to do next week? Allow 30 points to Vanderbilt. I was kind of in the same lane. Like, once I saw the matchup, I was like, whatever the number is, I'm taking the over.
Yep.
Because the only way Vandy keeps this a game at all is if they're tossing the pigskin and they're scoring points. So I think Vandy I think it's an interesting game. Obviously, I talked Bama up so much today. I clearly think they're going to come out on top. But I think Vandy's interesting. I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I think Bama's going to score more. But we're going to take the over.
I love that one. That one's my favorite. Next one in the docket, number 9, Texas. 7-point favorites on the road at Florida. Norm, you've rode Florida a few times this year. They've kind of come back to bite you in the ass. This week, DJ Lagway came out and said that he feels like whenever this Florida Gators offense gets going, watch out. Is this week going to be the week? You don't think so. Why the Longhorns -7 going into the swamp?
Well, in response to DJ Lagway, no fucking shit, buddy. No shit. This defense is elite. I've been talking about this defense every single week, and the only reason I'm been riding this team at all is because of this defense.
Try not to throw 5 picks. That might help.
But for this one, I think it's just Texas is too much for them. Texas is kind of on a mission after this Ohio State loss. They haven't had any tough games, so it's kind of just been business as usual. Slow start, and then end up winning by 20 points. This game, I think that it's going to work oppositely. I think Texas is going to have a big lead early. I think Florida might, make it interesting in terms of possessions, but at the end of the day, I think Texas probably wins this one by 10. So give me Texas -7.
You're looking for Arch Manning to start to kind of build on something and start to improve here as we go through the year?
Sorry, what's that?
I said, are you looking for Arch Manning to kind of start to turn the corner and start to build on stuff as we go through the year here?
Yeah, I think he's gonna settle in. I mean, he's talented. I think that's something that is getting ignored when the arch trolling has begun. He's a good player.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be worked on with him yet, which I think a lot of people wanted to ignore because he's a Manning. But at the end of the day, he's talented. Texas' team's really talented. I still foresee this team going to the playoff. So I'm taking Texas.
Next one, number 3, Miami. -4.5-point favorites on the road in Tallahassee, taking on the number 18 Florida State Seminoles. Over under 53.5. Florida State with a heartbreaking loss last Friday. Florida State gets an extra day to prepare for this one. But on the road, at home, you are taking the Seminoles. Is this a bounce back, get right, potential moneyline Florida State game?
I think it is. I think the fact that they're at home, has a big role as well. They proved with Bama that when the Seminoles are rocking at home, that place gets loud. I think this is going to be this to me feels like game-winning kick. So with that being said, I'm taking Florida State plus 4.5. Honestly, a part of me still feels like Miami's going to come out on top on this one. But I wouldn't be shocked if Florida State came out on top. I think Florida State loses in a close one, but I'm going to take them plus 4.5.
Next one, Mississippi State plus 15.5 point road dogs at number 6, Texas A&M. Over under a 55.5. A lot of games that are right there at that 55.5 this week. Norm, you're taking Mississippi State Bulldogs plus 15.5. Think Texas A&M is a little bit of frauds and there's too much talk around them right now? Why are you taking Mississippi State?
I think it's a mix. I don't think they're fully fraudulent. I think they're a pretty good team, but I think Mississippi State's a pretty good team. I think this is going to be a game where if Mississippi State scores 24 points, they're covering this easy. I think A&M's defense is good, but I think it's susceptible. Carr was dicing them up. I foresee Shapen to get some business done with Mississippi State. So I'm going to keep it. They're going to keep it within 15.5. I like Mississippi State to cover here.
Yeah, that's a big spread. I think Texas A&M, they had that big win at Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. So you would expect at some point they may have a letdown spot. Not saying that they're going to lose, but just allow a team to play with them. And Mississippi State has looked gritty through this early part of the season. So I'm with it. I like it. On to the NFL picks. Got a few picks from the NFL. Cowboys minus 2.5 on the road at the New York Jets. The Jets 0-4, but they've looked solid. They've gotten screwed a couple times. Not screwed, but they've lost in some heartbreaking fashions a couple times this year. Justin Fields looked pretty good last week. But Norm is taking the Cowboys minus 2.5 on the road. Talk us through it.
Well, I view this as this. I think the Cowboys view themselves as a potential playoff team. If you're a potential playoff team, you've got to win this game. I think it comes down to that simply. I think the Cowboys have shown flashes of being a good team, especially on the offensive side, like I was alluding to before. I think this is another one of those sad late losses for the Jets. But this feels like one, maybe the Cowboys field goal late or touchdown late to take care of business. Give me the Cowboys minus 2.5.
Next one, Broncos on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles minus 3.5. It seems like a little bit of a low spread there. I'm surprised that the Eagles are only 3.5 point favorites, but I like it. Why the Eagles?
I think they're just flying high right now. That Rams game was kind of the game that they really should have lost, and they came away with that one. Last week kind of dominated and let the Bucs hang around. I foresee this week kind of being similar. I think Bo Nix is going to have some trouble. This is probably the best defense he's seen in his career thus far. I know he hasn't been prone to turnovers and whatnot for the beginning of his career so far, but I think the Eagles are just too good on the defense side of the ball. I think on offense, they'll control the clock, be able to run. I think this inevitably they win this one by 2 scores. So I'm thinking the Eagles probably by 10 here. So give me the minus 3.5 and for them to beat the Broncos.
Maybe even by a couple extra points. And then the last one, Detroit Lions on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals, who have been absolutely embarrassed 2 weeks in a row. Lost by a combined about 50, 60 points, maybe even higher. Could be even higher at this point. I think it is higher. I think it's more like 60, 70 points. Anyways, Lions minus 10.5, taking them against a dog shit Bengals team who shows no life right now. No reason to have any kind of optimism. No reason to throw any kind of money on the Bengals at this point. Why the Lions?
Yeah, you described it pretty well right there. I would add that the Lions, like I said earlier, they like to step on throats. They're not afraid to pour it on you, and I just think this is a terrible matchup for the Bengals. Their defense, their offense has been bad recently, but their defense is what we've talked about forever being what's going to let them down. I could see the Lions scoring 40 points in this game. And if that's the case, there's just simply no chance the Bengals are keeping up.
Like it. I think you could probably buy a couple extra points there, too, and feel pretty good about it. But outside of that, that's 8 picks for Norm, coming in with an 8-0 week. Check back next week, and that number will be 19 and 21, and we'll be right there at even. Aside from that, Norm, it looks like this Thursday night game just got tied up at 23-23 heading to OT. So you want to get on out of here so we can watch the end of this game?
Yeah, it had a wild ending too. The Rams were going in to score a touchdown, and Kyron fumbled on the 1-yard line with about a minute left. The Niners recovered it, but the Rams had 3 timeouts, and the Niners ended up punting on 3-and-out. Rams drive, kick a field goal to tie it, and we're in overtime.
We are in OT.
A lot of overtimes happening recently.
Yeah, let's just hope this one ends in somebody winning and somebody losing. I hate ties in the NFL. I need to get rid of it. But outside of that, another episode down. Buckeyes host Minnesota, 22.5-point favorites this week. Bengals host the Lions, going to get the shit kicked in. And Dillon Gabriel making his first start across seas against the Minnesota Vikings. A lot to be excited about. Another full week of college football, NFL ahead. We'll be back at you next week for another episode. But other than that, if you could please like, subscribe, retweet, follow, everything that helps continue to make this show grow, we would greatly appreciate it. Aside from that, thank you for listening. Middle Ground out.